when the truth captures your heart and opens your eyes. A light illuminating the shadows. The beginning of a transformation.
Foundation exists to share that relatable story with the world.
The Competency Foundation provides that ability to compete in the marketplace and to compete in the pop culture conversation.
Competency is set up to appeal to the one, speak to the heart, and give to the world.
We can appeal to the one by making sure that the production quality is as high as it can be and that it is competitive with everything else that's out there.
So much different art portrayed visually, and if it doesn't stand out and doesn't meet that measure of quality, it's going to seem phony. There's something about quality and authenticity that goes together. To appeal to the one, you need that. Chosen has done that so beautifully, and our job at Come and See is to make sure that that continues.
We want to speak to the heart of the listener. We want to share that story in a way that's relatable and that's known by their heart language.
How long after my visit did you feel the change?
Dopo la mia visita, hai percepito il cambiamento.
So this is how we get to the one. 95% of this world speaks 600 languages, and we plan on being sure that the chosen is in all 600 languages over these next few years.
It's never been done before. In most languages that any series has been translated and dubbed is about 50.
thank you so much for joining us. I've got my colleagues here. Anna is here, and Dr. James Christian is here, and we are so thrilled to come tell you about what the Come and See Foundation is doing with some partners, and how we're going to take the Chosen to the world in 600 languages. So thank you for here, whether you're in person or whether you're online. We're really glad to have you. And I feel like we're about to let a cat out of the bag today. And so I couldn't be more thrilled. I could not be more excited to tell you what we're doing. So let's just dive right in. That video is quite a hard act to follow, I will admit. It's pretty inspiring. So now you have seen the mission. You know what we're up to. We are trying to take this authentic story of Jesus to the world in 600 languages. So now that's the mission. Let's talk about the AI. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, we started by first saying, well, we need to decide what are these 600 languages, okay? And so we worked with various partners to pull a tremendous amount of data together. And here's what we decided to do. We decided to consider what is the digital vitality? What is the spiritual need? To what extent has the Bible been translated? Do we have theological reviewers? How many people speak a particular language? And we pulled together a tremendous amount of data, and that's how we initially got to our first 600 languages. If you want to learn more about that process, see me afterwards. It was really, really data-driven and really phenomenal, and I could talk all day just about that piece, but let's keep going. So what we did was we started with our top 75 commercial markets, okay? And all of that has been human done. So human translated, human actors, theologically reviewed by humans. However, the Come and See Foundation is also really focused on non-commercial opportunities. So to get to 600 languages, we have another, 525 languages to do. And that's what I want to tell you all about today. So we started looking at platforms. We have tested dozens of platforms to try to figure out what's going to make this possible. And I want to give a special thank you to Koos, Bausch, you're in here, who introduced us to Writer. And we started working with the E10 Innovation Lab. Did any of you go to Writer's session yesterday? Yes, okay. So some of you will have seen that there was some technology that Writer's been working on for Bible translation. And we got together and we started exploring, well, what would this look like to do this for the show? And so we adapted it, and so I'm going to show all of that to you today. So what we're going to do right now actually is we're just going to start exploring the app that we're using to translate in the next 525 languages. I will tell you that this has been a very, very fast process. I think we started talking in November, and we tested 2 languages in December. That went to 8 in January. Anna is now leading our efforts. We're going to have more than 43 languages in the app today, and it's going great. So I'm here really just to show you what this thing looks like, okay? Let's do this. So I've got, you know what, I'm not sure now how to share this. Where's our tech person? It looks like they're not seeing this. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is the app. And so again, some of you will have seen this because some of you are using it for Bible translation. What we do is, actually let me go here first. Anna's actually really good at this. So we load in a script. So if I click on this button here, we load in the script. So you can see episode 2, episode 3, episode 8, 5, etc. So we're going to be looking at a script here, and this is what the initial view looks like, and it's pretty blank, right? We can click on this parallel, and now the linguist will be able to see the English over here, and they can start working away. So they can click on the first line, they can click on these stars, and the stars will generate or suggest a translation. We are keeping human in the loop. For any of you that heard about that this morning, is the human in the loop or out of the loop? We keep the human in the loop, and they can go ahead and check this if they like the translation. They can change it, update it, etc. And every line that they do is training the AI. So the first episode of the first season is pretty tough. It's the toughest part. After they get through about halfway through the first episode, the AI gets really good, and the linguists are all telling us, wow, we have to do almost nothing. It's getting very, very good. So we worked through an entire script, line by line. If it's good, we hit the check. If it's not, we're just going to hit delete because I don't want to train it on something that I don't know. Our Burmese speaker did not make it today. Hopefully he's watching online. But this is what it looks like by the end. By the time you get to the end, a full episode has been localized. And the very amazing thing, I should say a couple more things. Anna's like, you're doing a terrible job, I can tell. So let me hit a couple more things. You can see over here that hopefully you can see there are some check marks that go next to each line. So we actually can have a linguist and another theological reviewer or another linguist go through, and they can be working in here at the same time. We've got a commenting system where people can go into the line, add a particular line. We can see all comments or just for that current cell, so they can talk to each other. But they can also do a validation. I'm just going to close this, and then we get the double check marks when we know everything is approved. One of the first things that we do also, and I know I'm flying through this because I committed to a hard stop to keep us on time today, but one of the other things we can do is we can open, I'm doing a demo, so it's not going to work. Thank you for the encouragement. I love that. Okay, so the other thing that we can do is enter some instructions. Okay, writer. It was there moments ago.
I know.
Well, we'll talk generally about what it's doing. In general, what we can do is we have something called a co-pilot. So in the co-pilot, what we do is we have AI actually auto-generate general instructions. So for example, it will say, when translating from English into this particular language, and it'll give it all kinds of instructions. Perhaps it's about subject-verb order, or it's about anything in general. If you've watched it, have any of you watched Chosen? Yeah, okay. So if you've watched Chosen, you know, if any of you have watched Chosen, you know it's very conversational, right? Not too stiff, not too stuffy. And so sometimes we come in here and we'll say, look, the translation is feeling a little bit too formal. Please bring this into a little bit more conversational context, and it will do that. So the co-pilot is pretty great. I will tell you that after those general instructions are initiated, we really don't have to put too much in there, because as the linguist works through line by line, again, they're training it line by line, so there's not much they have to do. But as a media organization, one of the coolest things that happens is that we can do an export, and we can actually export these as subtitles, either the SRT file or the VTT file, depends on what your use case is. But we can actually now export them as perfectly time-coded subtitle files. We can embed them back into the video, send them off to the linguist. Now they can watch the show for the first person on the planet in that language, review it. They can come back in the app. They can be watching the show and say, maybe that one's a little bit too long, or I don't like how that one worked. Come back in the app, make any updates, and then we can again do a final export. And so that is just a very clever advancement, is to be able to have everything perfectly timed code. So now we can go ahead and start the distribution, and everything is perfectly synced. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to, let me see here. Okay, I know I'm hustling through this and some of you want to know a lot more, so I promise we can share more details offline. But some of you are now asking, but what about the audio, right? We have people groups that are illiterate or subtitles just aren't going to work in a particular culture. And I'm really pleased to talk about audio as well. The original goal of the Come and See Foundation is that the first 75 to 100 languages would be dubbed, which is the audio in another language, for those of you who are not familiar with that term. And then the remaining 500 would be subtitle only. But we're all here at an AI conference because we all know the tech is getting better and better and better every single day. I will tell you personally, I have a much more aggressive goal, and so we're going to talk about what we're doing for that. Most places in some of these lower resourced or minority languages have never heard Western content in their own language. And that's for a couple of reasons. One of them is there is no readily available talent pool. There just aren't a lot of voice actors that can get into a studio and produce a high quality dub. Oftentimes in some of these regions, if there is voice talent, it is in harm's way. And I'll give you an example when we go on to the next screen. So we are testing a couple different things. The first one is called speech-to-speech technology. Are any of you using speech-to-speech right now? One. We've got a couple people. So speech-to-speech technology. So what we did was we worked with the Screen Actors Guild, and we worked with the major characters, is a funny word, the main actors, voice talent, and we have scanned their voices, which allows us to now lay the sound of their voices over local voice talent. What that means is we've got some people in some of the Arab nations throughout the Middle East that are willing to go into a studio, but they do not want their voice to be used in the final recording. It would be very dangerous for them. So we can have them, 2 to 4 actors come in, and we can have them act the entire show, and then we can apply the original actor's voice over it to create a dub in that voice. So we are very excited. We're testing the first 3 languages right now with speech-to-speech technology, and we really believe that whether it's a small talent pool or a place that's just very dangerous, that we will be able to take this in audio as well to even more languages. Now, here's a really exciting part. What about text-to-speech? And I know a lot of you are probably experimenting with text-to-speech. Once a linguist has been in the app I just showed you, guess what? We have lots of text available. The entire script will now be available. And so we are working, I think our friends at BCS have joined online, and we are partnering with them. We're just launching a test to say, what does it look like to start using the translated script, using potential narration, applying the voice actor's voice over it, and then could all of our languages be available in audio? So I can't even tell you how excited I am about this. We all were just having a conversation, and one of the things we're going to be adding, Ryder, thank you, and Ben, thanks to your team, we're going to be adding a button in that app so that as the linguist types the correct thing or approves the correct translation, they will hit a record button and go ahead and just say the line. So now if we can have that line available and have all that audio available, and then we apply the speech-to-speech, we could not be more thrilled that potentially we will be able to do audio in many, many more languages than we can right now. So my challenge to you today is let's go. Let's go reach 95% of the world with The Chosen, the authentic story of Jesus in 600 languages. So many of you have reached out and said, how in the world are you doing this? So today was just to give you a brief overview. This is what we're up to. We put the translation email up there if you want to reach out and ask any questions that would be great. We're also obviously distributing this on our mobile app. And we are always looking for people who would give of their time to help be the human in the loop to keep our mobile app updated. So if you also want to volunteer for that, please send us an email. We would love to hear from you, or if you have other ideas, we're happy to share. But that is it for today in terms of the presentation. And we just wanted to open it up for questions and answers in case anybody wants to ask actually about the tech or anything you want to ask. Sure. The question was, can I talk about speech-to-speech again? So let me just go back to that. So on speech-to-speech, oftentimes there's a very small talent pool. The chosen requires really hundreds of actors, okay? So what can happen is that if we have perhaps just two female actors and 2 male actors, they can potentially act the whole thing in their own language. And then we can take the sound of the original English recording and apply it over their voices so that we now have a full cast of people versus just the 2 to 4 people that go into the studio. Does that help? Yeah, good question. Thank you. Yeah.
Even more low level, I've been curious how the speech-to-speech works. Is it using the spectrum of the original actor's voice to mess with the waveform of the native actor's voice?
Yeah.
And does it mess with the prosody too, or does the native prosody and like the plosives stay there, but the spectrum is?
Yeah, let's talk offline.
Okay.
Let's talk tech later, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But you're on the right path for sure. Any other general questions? Anybody want to? Yeah.
How are you choosing your LLMs for the translation?
Yeah. Ryder might want to speak to this one. How are we choosing the LLM? Do you want to answer that one?
Just use the best one.
We use the best one we can. Yeah. There's not a lot of thought that needs to go.
If you use a really high parameter model and you don't just ask it to translate, you basically say, treat this language like a puzzle. We'll give you some examples, and now you're gonna basically try to do your best to predict how to complete the puzzle. So it's just identifying patterns in the language samples that you've given it. So that's why it can work with low resource languages, because you're giving it the answer in the prompt. You're saying, here's the answer, now tell me what the answer is, just reorganized. So that way the language doesn't have to be in the model. And it's obviously, you get degraded performance the more low resource it is, but as the translator or linguist provides more and more relevant samples, then the quality does go up. And we actually do track the metrics. How much do you have to post-edit the AI suggestions over time? And what we're expecting is, as we see that across a lot of languages, you'll have a really nice curve of, oh, you don't have to post-edit much after a little while for higher resource languages, and it's probably going to stay pretty level for the low resource ones. But the models keep getting better, so.
Yeah, the last thing I would add to that is we have not yet found a language where it's not doing well. So we've got, like I said, 43 languages right now, and they are of all variety in all regions and all language families, and it's working quite nicely. So it's not doing better in some languages than others. It's doing great in all of them. Yeah, Thomas.
Hey, thanks, Wendy and Ryder. So I'm just going to use this word in public, lexicosomatic, which connecting words to meanings. You skimmed over that, but can you unpack that a little more? Because how are you connecting the word and the meaning via the back-end AI?
I would love to talk about lexicosemantics. We probably don't have to get too far into it, but basically, it's just because of the way the attention mechanism works, you're just putting the data right in the prompt. So it could be an arbitrary data. I could say, here's a bunch of numeric encodings or a cipher of the language. Now decipher it, or give me another example of the cipher. And it could probably start to predict, if you're using a predictable cipher, if there is a pattern, then it can find the pattern to some extent. So as long as you've got some data in there, as long as you've got enough, yeah, I don't know if that helps, but because you don't have to connect the lexicosemantics. All I have to do is give it samples. I could ask you to translate into Elvish or Klingon or something, something that you cannot know how to speak those things, right? But if you saw some samples, you might be able to actually piece something together if you had enough relevant data. So, yeah.
Why don't you stay here? I think we have time for one. I think we have time for one more. One more question, yeah.
So I was just, do you mess with the mouth at all, or in your like dubbing thing?
So we are testing that right now. We have on a 5-ish languages where we actually put in instructions. We haven't gotten enough results yet to know how it's going, but we put instructions in that Copilot and we said if the English sentence is starting with words with lips closed like M or P, please make a suggestion for translation for words that would have similar mouth movement. So it's too soon to tell, but we are testing that right now to see if we can give good enough instructions for it to produce those kind of results. Yeah. That was a great question. Yeah.
Similar. Traditional dubbing, you're forcing the A-E-I-O-U's to try to match the mouth movement, which really destroys the translation. But if you're trying to get the integrity of the translation, you ignore that. So are you doing any AI video editing to match the A-E-I-O-U and actually altering any of the video for different languages?
Not at this point. It is something that we have looked at and talked about, but we have not ventured into that just yet. Because remember, the original goal was the top 75 to 100 would be dubbed and the rest were subtitle. And so we're just now, we're not quite there yet, so we've had conversation, but we've not started exploring that yet. It's a great question. I gave my word we would end on time, and look at us, you overachievers. So, thank you for being here, and James.